Hi, this is Holly at the Art Hub, and today we're going to work on facial proportion, and that's a rule that artists know that helps them to divide and create symmetry in order to correctly place and realistically place parts of the face so that they are proportionate to each other. So I've just pulled out an ad from a magazine, and that's a good way to practice kind of dividing and looking at proportion. And then we can also use this to practice drawing after we've learned some of those rules. So the first thing that you would do is to divide the face in half, and that just makes a line of symmetry so that we can see that her face is symmetrically the same. The next thing that we have to realize is that the eyes are actually in the middle of the face. If we were to draw the eyes too high, then we'd have them resting on the forehead. So if we put a line across the middle of the face, we now have our lines to kind of start guiding us. If we take and look from the eyes to the rest of the face, we can see that the nose is actually in the middle again, this being the top and the chin being the bottom. So if we draw another line, we know that the nose will rest in the middle of that section. If we look at the section from the nose to the chin, we can also see that the mouth rests in the middle of that area. And this works and holds true for all human faces. This is a rule that you can always use to guide you. When you start drawing, you can kind of use your pencil or your fingers as a measuring tool if you were doing a self-portrait or someone else's portrait. And we can see that the eye on this picture is about a pinky's width from the center of our line of symmetry. And so when we go to draw that, we can use our pinky to leave that spacing. We can also see that the eyes are actually an eye width apart. So if you take your fingers and measure the eye, you can see that the eyes rest about that eye width apart. So if we start drawing this, we would sketch out the head shape. And I'm going to draw in Sharpie just so you can see nice and dark. I would definitely recommend drawing with pencils so that you can erase some of the cheating marks that we're going to make to learn proportion. And the word that we're working with, the art rule that we're working with, we'll just write that down here so we don't forget what it is. Okay, so next I would divide in half to create my line of symmetry. And I know that the eyes are going to be placed halfway down the head, leaving room for the forehead and room for the hair. And then I know from here to the chin I'm going to divide in half again to have where the nose will rest, and from here to the chin in half again. We'll just go ahead and label that so we know that this is where the eyes will be, this is where the nose will be, and this is where the lips will be. Okay, and if we're trying to kind of draw realistically, then we have to look at the shapes of the eyes. If you're doing a self-portrait, you would look in a mirror to look at your own eye shape. And she has kind of more of a cat eye shape where she has a very defined tear duct. And so we had figured out that her eyes were about a pinky width apart from that center. So we could make that mark on both sides so that it's evenly spaced. Okay, and just kind of measuring on the picture, I can see kind of how big her eye is, and since I've drawn this picture to size, I can use that actual measurement to get pretty close to her real face shape and her eyes distance apart. So when I start drawing the eyes, we're going to make sure that we position the top half and bottom half equally on this line. And we're kind of just looking back and forth at her actual eye shape as we draw. And we're going to go ahead and get both eye shapes in before we do any details. I always like to block in where things will be placed and then come back for the details. And it'll be a lot easier for you to erase if you have any mistakes as you use pencil. Okay, next we're going to go ahead and get the nose positioned. We can see that the bottom part of her nose rests right here at the intersection of those lines. We can see that the edge of her nostril matches up with the tear duct. We can go ahead and draw that detail in just so we can use it for placement. And so, edge of the nostril will be here and here, just kind of using what we've already drawn as reference. We're kind of looking at her nose shape here. Okay, and we can see she has a very defined bridge for her nose, and so we can go ahead and add that as well. Okay, next we're going to place the mouth. We can see that the top of the mouth is going to rest on top of the lip line. And she has very full lips, so we're going to make sure to make that bottom lip larger to match the features. We're not as concerned about having it look exactly like the picture yet. We're just kind of learning how to use proportion. The more you practice, the better you're going to get with the features and being able to draw them more realistically. Okay, we want to place the eyebrows. I like to do little marks just so it actually looks like the texture of an eyebrow, and everyone's eyebrows kind of look different. Again, you have to look at the model that you're using, or if you're doing a self-portrait, you're kind of looking in the mirror as you go. Okay, and once you add hair in, that really kind of starts to shape up your drawing. Since she has her hair pulled back, and the side part, we're going to come up a little bit and make that part, and then we're going to allow some thickness for the hair. Pull it down over into here. Okay, and because she has shorter hair, or hair that's pulled back, we'll be drawing the ears. And if you were drawing a male figure, you would need to know how to place the ears. If we look at the picture, we can see that her ears line up with her eyebrows. Her ears are kind of positioned high, so we can make a mark on both sides just so that it's symmetrical. If we line this up across, it's kind of at the center of her nose. And then we're kind of looking at the ear shape to get it drawn correctly. She has some earrings on. It's kind of up to you how detailed you get on this first practice. Okay, and then to draw the details in the eyes, you have to kind of look at how the pupil is positioned. For some people, their eyes are open wide enough you can see the whole circle. Some people's pupils kind of rest at the top eyelid. Some kind of rest more towards the bottom. Hers happens to rest more towards the top. So we're going to draw that circle in. Trying to get it about the same on both sides. Okay, and then you want to include the center of the eye. Leaving a little white space allows for a highlight, which makes it look just a little bit more realistic. When you add eyelashes in, to look at the length of the eyelashes, on the right hand side they always point diagonally to the right. On the left hand side they always point diagonally to the left. And then there's a lesser amount on the bottom. When you are drawing the neck, you have to kind of look at where it meets up. Kind of meets up here at her jawline. You have to make sure the neck is large enough and wide enough to support the weight of a person's head when you add that in. And then when you add shoulders, the shoulder is actually one head width wide. And so you would make sure to give her a nice wide shoulder. If you were drawing a bust, you could just stop with the head, neck, and shoulders. Okay, and then you can come in and kind of swipe in details for the hair. And again, mine doesn't look exactly like the picture. If we spent more time looking at the detail, we could definitely get it there. But for a basic practice, this kind of gives us the idea of how to work with proportion. Hopefully that helped you to learn a little bit about how to draw a more realistic portrait, and good luck as you practice. Thanks for joining.